இந்த வீடியோட தமிழ் வெர்ஷன் கமெண்ட்ல பின் பண்ணிருக்கேன். Make use of it. Welcome to the video on security attacks. First we will understand what is security attack. Then we will look at its types, which are passive attacks and active attacks. Under passive attacks, we will see release of message contents and traffic analysis. Under active attacks, we will cover masquerade, replay, modification of messages, and denial of service or DOS attacks. Let's get started. Any action that tries to break into a system to steal, modify, or block data is called security attack. These attacks can harm confidentiality, integrity, or availability of data. It is classified into two types, which are passive attacks and active attacks. Let's talk about passive attacks. A passive attack is a cyber threat in which attacker quietly listens and watches data transmission without altering them. They are not doing anything destructive, no changes, no damage, just spying quietly, like someone eavesdropping on your phone call or reading your emails without you knowing. Here the main goal is to steal the information like passwords, messages, or files without being caught. It affects confidentiality. So your private data isn't private anymore, but your system continues to work as usual. You may not even know it's happening. You are still using the system normally, but someone in the background is collecting your information. Now let's understand the two main types of passive attacks, which are release of message content and traffic analysis. Release of message content. This is one of the most basic type of passive attack. Here, attacker secretly reads or listens to your private communications without your knowledge. Attackers often use tactics like phishing, smishing, and wishing to stealthily obtain sensitive information such as passwords and bank details. It is called passive because they are not changing anything, just quietly spying and grabbing the message content. Traffic analysis. This is another type of passive attack, and it is pretty smart. Even if your messages are encrypted and the attacker can't read the actual content, they can still observe the communication patterns. Even if your message is locked with encryption, a hacker can still see that you are sending 50 emails every day at 9 a.m. to the same person. They can't read the message, but they know who you are talking to, when and how often. So this can reveal sensitive information like business relationships, personal connection, or operational schedules without breaking the encryption. Now let's look at the main characteristics of passive attacks. These are the sneaky ones where someone is silently spying on your data. First thing is, it is hard to detect because the attacker is just watching silently. They don't break or change anything. So everything looks normal to us. Next, no changes or damage. The attacker just sees the data. He doesn't delete or change anything. And finally, it focuses on prevention. For that, we use encryption. And thus it hides the actual content. So even if someone sees it, they can't understand. So in short, passive attacks don't damage anything, but they steal information quietly. And that's why encryption is super important to protect our data. Now let's move on to the next type of attack, which is a bit more aggressive, called active attack. These attacks change or disturb the system. They are more harmful and usually easier to notice. The main goal is to alter system resources or affect how the system works. This is often done by injecting, deleting, or delaying data. These attacks can break the integrity and availability of the system. They usually cause direct damage, disruption, or unauthorized actions. There are four types of active attacks, which are masquerade, replay, modification of messages, and denial of service. Masquerade attacks occur when one entity pretends to be another entity. An entity is anything that can be involved in a transaction or interaction within a system. This is often combined with other attacks, like replay attacks, to make it more powerful. For example, a hacker gets your username and password, logs into your bank account, and acts like they are you. The bank doesn't know it's fake and allows the attacker to make transaction in your name. Masquerading is just the starting point. It's not the final goal. Once the attacker is pretending to be you, they can steal data, make transactions, or launch other attacks. Next, replay attack. It occurs when a hacker captures a valid message. For example, attacker captures a login request and then sends it again to the target system. Attacker records your successful login and replaces it to log in again without knowing your password. So the main goal is to get access and do something without your permission, usually by acting like a real user. After that, modification of messages. Here the attacker changes the message content or sometimes delays or records the messages. For example, the original message says you have to pay me $10 and it is changed to you have to pay me $100. So the receiver ends up paying more. The goal is to change the message without the sender or receiver knowing. Next up, denial of service or DOS attack. DOS attack aims to disrupt or block access to resources or services. So this attack stops or slows down access to the system, service or network so that legitimate users can't use it. For example, the attacker blocks important messages, so the security system doesn't get them. Also overloading a network with too many requests so that it becomes slow and unusable. So the main goal is to disrupt normal use and make services unavailable to real users. Look at the diagram, it perfectly shows the difference between DOS attack and DDoS attack. DOS attack on top. Here one attacker sends huge number of requests to the server, so the server cannot handle the real users. Next, distributed denial of service. In short, DDoS attack. DDoS attack diagram is given below. In this, many hackers use infected computers called botnet to send a lot of requests all at once. This attack is much more powerful because it comes from many places. Blocking one IP address will not stop the attack. In DOS attack, one attacker sends too many requests to crash the server. In DDoS attack, many attackers or botnet send a lot of requests together. Both achieve the same goal. That is, it makes the server unavailable to the real user by flooding it with fake traffic. Now let's understand the characteristics of active attack. Typically, active attacks leaves changes like system crashes and changed data, so that it is easier to detect. But it is hard to stop fully, because attackers use different tricks to get in. Active attacks are usually noticed, so we focus on finding them quickly and fixing the damage. Even though active attacks are hard to stop, we still try to reduce the risk by using security tools. Now let's compare active attacks and passive attacks. In active attack, the attacker can read and change the data. In passive attack, the attacker can only read the data. He can't change the data. Active attacks can affect the whole system, like crashing a server or stealing data. Passive attacks don't affect the system. It works silently in the background. Active attacks target both message integrity and confidentiality. Passive attacks focus only on confidentiality. Active attacks are usually easier to detect because something breaks or acts weird. Passive attacks are hard to detect. They just observe without making noise. In active attack, the attacker can control or disrupt the network. In passive attacks, they only watch the communication. Active attacks includes replay attacks, message modification, denial of service, and masquerade. Passive attacks includes message content release and traffic analysis.